travel time. There is a chronic fatigue and work stress among people. And this is true. It was surprisingly found. It was true for both larger as well as smaller organizations. Although in larger organizations the stress was more, but not that in smaller organizations these trends were not there. It is true for larger as well as smaller organizations. There are rises in incidents of yelling, crying, screaming. These incidents at workplaces have increased. Rise in anxiety-related ailments. There are longer working hours, excessive workload, weekend duties, inadequate physical activity, unhealthy lifestyle. These are cited as reasons. So these are some of the findings of these 3 surveys, which happened at 3 different places in the world. One in America, which is one of the, the developed economies of the world. One in Asia, which is a developing and a fast developing, continent. And another in India, which may be one of the most, focused location today in the world. Everybody wants to look at India. Everybody wants to do the business in India. So much so that FIFA World Cup, FIFA chief, almost said that in 2016, or maybe 2026, the World Cup can happen, Football World Cup can happen in India. Not because India has a great football team, not because of anything else, but because of 1.2 billion population, everybody wants to look at India because it's a great market. So if you look at the 3 different surveys, the 3 different locations of the world have indicated almost the same findings. So it is not something that cannot be corroborated. It is corroborated and checked. So if you look at the stress stages and the breakaway points, the stage 1 is a stress factor. Anything which causes stress. And there may be a normal stress response. For instance, when I got a call from our principal and Mr. Bridge that I had to come for this session, it became a cause for stress. And I have a normal stress because I have to prepare for this session. I know I was very well told by Mr. Bridge a couple of times that we are having very senior participants, and which also put a kind of stress on me, which made that I have to talk, and I have to talk in terms of understanding that all of you had a very distinguished service till now. Yes, that is a eustress. And that is eustress, definitely eustress. And that is a normal stress response which leads to a boost of energy, which happened in my case. It boosted my energy because I was excited coming here and I was excited talking to all of you. Now, supposedly there is an unsuccessful outcome. Now, this is the first breakaway point, which means if we can manage the stress response in a nice way, it leads to a boost of energy and then we are off it. So it's a first breakaway point. However, if the outcome is not positive, if the outcome is negative, then there is an added pressure. It leads us to stage 2, which leads to continuous problems. The problems continue. The stress response is such that we are switched on continuously. We're thinking day and night. Even in our dreams, we may be imagining that. When we wake up, the first thing strikes us is that particular thing. So we are switched on continuously. It drains our resources and energy. Now, this is the second breakaway point, which means if the stress is managed at this point, we can break away from that stress again. However, if it is left unattended, then the periods of stress are longer. There's a longer spell of stress which happens. If we enter into stage 3, now this stage 3 is dangerous. There is sapping of energy reserves. Our energy gets sapped out. We almost dry out of our energies. There is illness. There is an intellectual decline. Our ability to think, our ability to ideate, our ability to express go down. It sedates us, slows us. There is a chronic illness. Again, the breakaway point is there. Maybe it still can be attended. However, if left still unattended, then it may lead to breakdown or even death. One of the, I'm sure you must be knowing this. Death due to overwork happened in Japan in 1969. First time in 1969 it was called karoshi. Karoshi. It was called karoshi. Karoshi meant K-A-R-O-S-H-I. Karoshi, just to tell you because it's a Japanese word, karoshi meant death due to overwork. It was observed first time in Japan in 1969. And it happened in high-profile employees, people who were very high in their career, very high in terms of hierarchy, handling a lot of things, a lot of pressure. It happened mostly them. Karoshi still happens. People still die of these stress pressures. They still die. It is only thing that it may have become so common now that people may have stopped observing. In 1969, it may have been a little uncommon. It happened in Japan because Japan was going at a different pace than the rest of the world at that time. But now we are all in the same pace. I'll take you through another video. Now this video focuses on two very important things. One, of course, the impact of stress in terms of the health. But more than that, one important thing. Stress originates from brain, and like any other thing. And hence my session here is not built on any psychological aspect, any other aspect except cognitive aspect. Except cognitive aspect, I will not talk of anything else. Because it is scientifically proved that stress originates from brain. So let us look at that video, and then we will go to the core of the session quickly, which is in terms of the ABC that I will be talking about, because I just wanted to build the session in this way. Please watch this video.
Moxie Media presents Managing Stress on the Job. Let's face it, people seem to be under more stress today than ever before. Unfortunately, stress is not just something we feel. Stress has well-known serious physiological effects on our health. Stress has been linked to accelerated aging, high blood pressure, artery damage, heart disease, cancer, and many other illnesses. It is a great robber of the immune system, and too often, life itself.
Okay, well, nothing is more damaging to health and in terms of the fabric of our society today than the effects of mental stress in a 24-hour society where people are working harder than ever and trying to make ends meet. But stress is not just a psychological issue. You know, there's very few moments in our life where we're not under some degree of stress. Let's understand a little bit more about the true physiology of the brain. And that is the base of your brain, the area near the hypothalamus, at the center, lower part of your brain, is a stress center that when activated, produces a tremendous reaction, causing a tremendous release of adrenaline that goes throughout the brain to activate the parts of the brain to make you alert and ready for danger. And since down the spinal cord, you go to muscles,
you can give me half
neck,
and distribute that.
and in fact more rigid so that you can throw your arms with more strength and your legs can run faster. And so you're prepared to fight. Again, though, it's not a fighting situation. It's not an escape situation. It is an argument with your wife. It's an argument with your son. An argument with your daughter. It is a tax bill you didn't expect. It is a car note that you can't afford. And so this adrenaline keeps secreting. The problem with this is that it's constantly activating the pituitary gland that activates what we call the adrenal glands situated on top of your kidneys that releases a very powerful neurohormone called cortisol. And what does cortisol do? Cortisol goes into the tissues. After it's released from that part of your brain, from the adrenal glands, it goes into the system. And the first thing it does, it breaks down muscle protein and releases amino acids into the blood. The amino acids are then used by the liver to form sugar called glucose. Remember, it's preparing you for war. It's preparing you for battle. And the primary energy to go into fighting or running from danger is to have the most expendable energy for your muscle, and that's glucose. So it's breaking down protein in your muscle to produce sugar that you use by the muscle. And chronically will cause serious damage. But that, remember, glucose, when it goes to the bloodstream, is going to cause insulin to be produced. Insulin, the hormone produced by the pancreas, insulin's primary responsibility is to control the amount of glucose and make sure it goes into the cells that it's intended to be used in. It also releases fatty acids from the fat cells for muscle energy as well. So now your blood becomes full of fatty acids and glucose, and a body that's not doing anything because you're not fighting, you're not running, you're sitting there worrying about something that you feel like you have no control over. And so what this does, it triggers a hunger response, and it deposits toxic fat and the abdominal area. So people under chronic stress also become hungry and reach for food, put it in their mouths to produce endorphins and other chemicals that relax the system, make them feel better, to fight this chronic stress situation. So people under a lot of stress treat their stress not by exercise like they should be doing, but by reaching for food because of the effect of food on the hormones in your body that make you feel relaxed. After a big meal at 12 o'clock, how do you feel by 3 o'clock? You're ready to go to bed. Adrenaline constricts muscle and increases heart rate. So your heart starts beating faster. That raises your blood pressure. At the same time, stress causes the blood vessels to constrict, reducing the diameter of those blood vessels, which also further raises blood pressure. So two things are going on. Faster heart rate, smaller, thinner arteries that squeeze up on you. Blood pressure goes sky high.
How it originates from brain? It is very scientific. It has nothing to do with any other, it's a fact. It originates from brain. It affects our body and how it affects us. Now, before I go any further and explain this video, I have given a small test for you, which is a Holmes-Rice stress test. Now, these are events which are mentioned in this. You have to tick mark only those events. This is confidential. I will not take back this document from you. So you can be completely assured that this information whichever you're doing here is your information. I'm not taking it back from you. So please do it with complete confidence on this particular aspect. You have to tick mark only those events which you have experienced in the past 12 months. Not anywhere in the life. Only the last 1 year. Last 1 year, whichever events you have experienced, please tick mark only those events. And as I said, this is completely confidential with you. It will remain with you. So please don't worry about this information leaking. There's no information leaking. There are sensitive aspects in this. And I know that my participants are very mature and they can handle this. That's why I've given this to you. I have another different type of test in my book, but that is more of a general layman type of test, which I didn't want to use here. I wanted to use here a very specialized, standardized test because I know my participants and their maturity level. Please tick mark only those events which you have experienced in the past 1 year. And please be very careful because sometimes you may say, no, this has not happened to me, but actually it may have happened. And another thing, there are good events as well as bad events in this. Remember, good events also lead to stress. For instance, there are good events like outstanding personal achievement, but also leads to stress. So there are good and bad events both in this test. Please tick mark those events which you've experienced in the past 12 months. You don't need to write a name and email because again, initially I thought I'll take these sheets back from you. Then I thought you will be more comfortable if these sheets remain with you. And it is better kept personal. So please keep these sheets with you. Don't need to write name, email, anything.